During the rainstorms and flooding events that struck several parts of Vermont on July 9th and 10th, the Weston Playhouse, renowned for its many notable theater presentations and famous actors who have performed there, was one of the places that suffered severe damage and had to close down, just as its summer season was getting underway. A team of volunteers from Weston and other towns converged on the Playhouse afterwards and helped dredge and clean it out. But the damage was done, and the Playhouse had to move what productions it could to the nearby Walker Farm stage. Now, nearly 4 months later, work is underway and continuing at the Playhouse to repair the damage caused by the flooding. Recently, we met up there with Susanna Gellert, the Playhouse's executive artistic director, to hear an update on how that work is going.
So the Playhouse is we're in the midst of the first step of rebuilding, which is about moving all of the mechanicals from the basement up to the upper level, the first floor. So, like many buildings, everything that was the guts of the operation was downstairs, which is indeed, as we know, below floodplain. So we're taking care of that right now. That's actually what the banging is. And then the next step is going to be that we're working with a hydrological engineer to find out what we are really able to do in the basement, if anything. Pending the results of that engineering work, we're expecting that what's most likely going to happen is that we'll be looking at how we move. Now that the mechanicals are up, we move all of the theater operations up to upper levels. Obviously, this building is a historic building, both in terms of its location and everything that's happened here. And we're really committed to staying here, but we want to do that in a way that allows us to not get flooded out in the future. So our hope is that we'll figure out a way so that the next time a flood happens, we might have to get some water out of the basement, but the show will go on. I mean, what happened this time is, it's a sort of multiple things happened at once. So because the water was 3 feet above Irene, the entire basement was flooded, as well as water coming into this building, to this part of the building, which has never happened before. So that knocked out the theater operations. All of our costumes, props, all of the workshops for those were downstairs. So they were offline. All of the mechanicals for the building were offline. So even if we had no power, no water, et cetera. And then on top of that, there was the water and the mud. So it was really just a hit in every way. And what we're expecting that these floods are going to keep happening and the basement will keep filling with water. So we're looking at how we get that water out as quickly as possible, but that we don't have to stop our operations as that is happening. No, we're actually planning that next summer this will be a construction site is our hope. So we're not expecting to be back here next summer. But as I say, that's so that we can be back here in 2025. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, we are really going to have to figure out a way to build a new theater inside this building with a new structure. Dressing rooms that were in the basement are going to have to go somewhere else. Workshops that were in the basement are going to have to go somewhere else. So we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of thinking to do. So right now we're expecting that we won't be here next summer, and we're planning for performances at our Walker Farm space. We're really lucky to have it. So we'll be doing a full summer of theater in Weston, but the Playhouse will most likely be a construction site.
So financially, how much will this all cost? Do you estimate at this point?
We don't have those numbers yet, and that's part of the research that we're still doing. But we anticipate it's going to be well over $1 million. And just keeping in mind that that's also a two-part problem, because the theater company rents this building from the Weston Community Association. The Weston Community Association is responsible for the structure of the building, all of the day-to-day of the building. The theater company is responsible for everything in the building that makes it, more than an auditorium, that makes it function as a theater. So all told, between the two organizations, well over $1 million, if not over $2 million, to get everything back operational.
And I know you had the fundraiser a couple weeks ago. Are making headway towards that $1 million or?
We actually haven't started working on that because we don't have the number, and we want to make sure that we're raising money with concrete answers in front of us. So where we are right now, and what that fundraiser really helped us with, is that because of what happened to us this summer, we lost a lot of money, and a lot of our planned earned revenue wasn't able to come in. So when this building shut down in early July, that effectively meant that we started losing $100,000 in ticket sales per week. And when we moved to Walker Farm with Singin' in the Rain, that was great, but we still were performing for half of the planned audience that we were able to perform for here. So we were left with a pretty significant budget gap. We did everything we could over the summer to create, to save as much as we could. That's why we ended our season early, because we were just in a situation where we knew that we needed to conserve our resources and protect our reserves. But because of that lost earned income, we were finding ourselves needing to fill the gap, and that's what that benefit really helped us do. One of the most heartbreaking things about the flood is that on July 8th, we had a board meeting at which I presented to our board this kind of incredible news for this theater company, which is that we had achieved record-breaking subscription numbers, and not just record-breaking, across 5 years, the entire history of the organization. We had more subscribers than ever before. And I believe that we are the only theater, to this day, I think we're the only theater that was true for this year. On top of that, our sales figures, our single ticket sales, so not subscribers, were on pace with 2019, pre-pandemic. Again, there were very few theaters in the country that experienced that this year. We were not just having a good year, we were having an anomalous and an incredibly exciting year that really spoke to how important this theater company is in this community, the value of the conversations that we're creating for this region, and it really was talking about the fact that theater is having a hard time nationwide, but not in Weston. And indeed, it is true that across the country, some theaters are coming back successfully, but a lot of theaters are struggling, and on average, the field has been losing a couple of theaters, if not more, every month. Another one just closed actually last week, a theater out of Boston. So it's an incredibly sad time for a theater as a field in America. It's a really, despite that, it's a really exciting time for theater in Weston.
It won't be the first time the theater has been dark during the summer. It was closed for a couple of years during World War II, then badly damaged and rebuilt following a fire in 1962. It also had performances interrupted by the COVID pandemic in 2020 and 2021. In any event, the show will go on. It's just that next year they'll be over at the Walker Farm, and a reimagined theater will return in 2025. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.